What's up, everybody? My name's Taylor Wilson. I'm the Resourceful Vet, and today we're going to be talking to Hector Perez. Hector is the current founder of Merivis, and as well, we're going to be learning more about Merivis and what that is and everything to know about it. So without further ado, thank you for being here today, Hector.
Yeah, thank you for having me, Taylor. It's nice to be here.
Absolutely. So Hector, what is Merivis?
Yeah, so Merivis is a 501c3 nonprofit. We're a veteran service organization. We started in 2015, and we serve military veterans, active duty, and military spouses in helping them transition into technology careers. Right now, mostly focused on the Salesforce economy.
Gotcha. And what made you start Merivis?
Yeah, let me take a step back, and it'll kind of go into a little bit about my story. But I came from pretty humble backgrounds, in growing up in San Antonio, and I had joined the Air Force 2 days after high school graduation, and it was a really pivotal moment for me in my life because the Air Force, over those 4 years I was in, and then I was in civil service at the same hospital there as a nurse for another 3 years. It instilled in me discipline, leadership, teamwork, collaboration, a lot of the skill sets that have stayed with me throughout my career. And so after I left the military, I took advantage of the GI Bill and switched my career from the medical side to technology. And around 2007, 2008, I got exposed to Salesforce. And it wasn't until 2014 that VetForce was launched at Dreamforce of 2014. It's called Salesforce Military now, and it's a wonderful program that helps military folks get free training online and collaboration, and it's all part of the Salesforce military community. And Merivis was started because, of course, at the time it was called VetForce. They were partnering with some nonprofits across the country. And I was based in Texas at the time. And being a Texas veteran, also working in the Salesforce community, I saw a lot of companies in Texas, in the big cities, that were really needing Salesforce talent. And I didn't see a nonprofit that was kind of partnering with Salesforce and trying to help get this funnel of veterans through. So we started Merivis. It was an idea that I came up with on a drive from Dallas to Austin. It was just kind of an aha moment. And, we started from humble beginnings, had our first cohort in October of 2015, and we bootstrapped the organization. And from that point forward, we've slowly grown organically through success of our veterans and spouses who have become professionals in the Salesforce community. We've grown so much that, 2015, we had our first class. In 2020, although it's been kind of a crazy year, we're at 19 classes this year. So the growth has been exponential, and we're obviously not just serving Texas veterans. We started off small, but we serve any constituent within the United States right now.
Wow. So, and you said you have you've had 19 classes this year. That seems like a lot, especially with everything going on. And when you first started, how many classes did you start with?
We just started with that one. And in 2016, it was one. 2017, I think it was two. And then in 2018, it was pretty pivotal. We got, a grant from, it was actually 2019 we got the grant, but 2018 I think it was offered 3 or 4 classes. So it started getting a little bit more of a repeatable process where we were offering the admin cohort. 2019 and 2020, we had grants each year from Salesforce, and then Accenture actually gave us a grant this year. So we went from 4 or 5 to 11 classes or 12 classes in 19 to now almost 20 classes 2020. And that really goes to speak that it's, a lot of it's about sponsorship, but also the community. So it's the coaches, the volunteers, the instructors, the people that give some of their time to make sure that the organization is successful. So it's been a lot more organic growth than anything that we have intentionally grew as far as like thinking about the future. We didn't realize it would be this big.
Well, it really is, it just shows, how Merivis has made a difference and, how you guys keep growing and continue to grow. So, and I'm interested too, how and why should veterans get started with Merivis?
Yeah, so, there's a lot of information out there on the web in relation to Salesforce careers. You can go to Trailhead and you can learn all different sorts of things, but it's pretty broad. And if you don't know a lot about the community or like the jobs, it can be overwhelming. You can even go to Salesforce Military, and it's a great avenue as well. The differences with Merivis is we're a little bit more of a high touch model, right? We cap our classes at around 15 to 16, and you get assigned a mentor during that 5-week program. 4 of those weeks are virtual. 1 week is in person, although I will caveat the world we live in now with COVID, it's all virtual. But during those 5 weeks, it's a slow ramp up of trails and homework and office hours. And so you're not overwhelmed with a lot of information, and you get to learn intentionally at a specific pace where if you were doing it on your own or maybe through another program, there's not a lot of guardrails, right? And that's not bad. Some people operate fine like that. But we consciously try to build a rich experience, and we also build a community so that when the veterans have gone through this 5-week program, the relationship with Merivis doesn't end. It's really just beginning, because we'll make sure that you follow through on some of your, exams and give you highlights and tips about how to take the exam. During the cohort, we offer interview techniques, LinkedIn help. When we were having the in-person class, we were doing professional headshots. So it kind of is a complement of a lot of other things besides Salesforce that really makes a difference. But the biggest thing, Taylor, I'd say is something we didn't plan for. It's the community. It's the sending the elevator back down to your fellow veterans, especially the ones that were in those first classes who have now started to become more mid-level and senior in their careers, and they consciously want to get back to.
Absolutely. Well, I know that there's, a lot of different things that you go through when you're in the Merivis program, and I was interested too for, the audience out there, what, how has Merivis made a difference for veterans and spouses, and what are some of the, concrete examples or things that people go through when they join Merivis?
So there are many good stories, and frankly, as I said earlier, that is the reason why we're successful. It's not because of Hector or Kate or Joe, we're all the founders, or even our board, although we've done a lot. It's because of stories like Sheldon. So just YouTube Merivis and Dreamforce, and last year they shared his story. I won't share it again. It's actually a really good video, so I won't share that one. But there are many other stories, and one I will share is Robin Provost. She and I met, I think it was 2016. She was kind of touching upon a little bit of Salesforce, but wasn't sure if that was a career for her. And she ended up joining a cohort later. I think it was a year and a half later. And slowly but surely, she started to get her certifications, and eventually she landed a role at Deloitte. The reason why I highlight Robin, and I think I've said this story a few times, is, she shared a story where she was at a client site in LA. She lives in Texas, in Austin. And she was in this building, and she's working on Salesforce stuff, making a professional salary, most likely the most she's ever made. And she's looking down across the street at, a garment factory where her parents worked as immigrants, right, when they came over here. So you can see the generational change in what this can do for a family, what it can do for an individual. There are many stories that are like that, whether they were in the Army, the Marines, whether they're a spouse, whether they retired and then joined the Salesforce community, or like myself, they just served 4 years. Every story is different, but what I find consistently is that all the stories that come out that are, the ones that have made it really well are the ones that have stuck with it. the ones that have stayed up and did the homework, the ones that attended some of the extra sessions, the ones that did the homework, the ones that went to the networking events. Some of that stuff's not easy, right? You have to put your time into it. But the biggest piece of advice I'd give to anyone who's interested is, if one door gets closed, you just keep breaking down other doors until one opens, because it actually will open. Sometimes not at your pace or your timeline, but just this year alone, I've had calls, I've had emails sent that people who've landed that job, right? That first one or that second big one. And those are the people consistently that have just stuck with it.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I know when it comes to getting started and, just transitioning out of the military, that can be, kind of scary. And at the same time, transitioning into tech, it's definitely, there's a lot of different, companies out there and opportunities. And, what would you say as far as just with getting started to tech? What are some things that, people should know or would be resourceful to know about?
Yeah, I think, tech is such a broad term, right? You think about, people that are developers or coders, and you're maybe in a room by yourself just typing away, or you're like the way the movie portrays it. But that's just a small piece, right? And frankly, it's not even a bigger piece of the puzzle. What the bigger piece is about is working with people, engaging with people around how you can empower a piece of software to deliver features and functionality for that business or that nonprofit or whatever you're working on. And if you are a good people person, or you like to collaborate and you like to see things go from inception all the way to delivery, the tech industry is very rich with that. I would also say don't be intimidated by it, because the reason why Salesforce as a platform and as a community is so rich with stories like Robin's or Sheldon's or whoever is you don't have to come from a background of coding and tech. You can slowly start on the administration, what we call configuration or declarative type stuff. So a lot of drag and drop stuff and not coding. Now you have to know about what it all means, that what you're doing, but it's a softer landing. So my advice is, if you're interested in tech, do as much research as you can. Talk to people who are in the industry. Set up a coffee, a Zoom meeting, of course now, and do your work. And if Salesforce happens to be that path that you want to look at, there's a lot of good blogs out there. There's a lot of good artifacts online that can share with you stories of other people who have gone into the tech environment.
And I know too, when you get into the tech environment, depending on what you go with and what you learn, for example, with Salesforce, when you're in the Salesforce ecosystem, you're known as a trailblazer. But I know too, being a part of Merivis, you're known as a Merivet. And what is a Merivet?
Yeah, that is a term that Joe Castro, who's our current president, and one of the founders came up with. It is, pretty simply put, it's somebody who's gone through Merivis, right? I would probably say, for me, my definition would be somebody who's gone through Merivis and is successfully going after their career path. That doesn't mean that they have to come back and help us. That doesn't qualify you more, although we really appreciate those guys and ladies. But it's somebody who's gone through the program, taken it seriously, followed through on the commitment of getting certified, and eventually, obviously, landing a job. So when somebody's called a Merivet, it's simply somebody who's gone through the program and is now really doing well.
Good to go. And so what kind of training does Merivis offer?
Yeah, so we are all in on the Salesforce platform right now. We're looking at other platforms to augment some of our training and looking at other things to offer. But right now, it's 100% Salesforce. And we started with the admin certification, which I consider kind of the gateway certification, because from there you can go down the developer route, you can go down maybe a business analyst, maybe an admin route. There's a few other routes. And so we started consistently offering the admin class. A couple of years ago, we had a lot of alumni come back to us saying, hey, are you going to offer Service Cloud or Advanced Admin or some of these other courses? And so we did. And so we offer a variety of different other like Salesforce certifications, Marketing Cloud, Pardot. We're doing, I think, our first CPQ next year, or Field Service Lightning. We've done Service Cloud, we've done Community Cloud and Marketing Cloud. I'm probably missing maybe one or two, but the point is the advanced classes have now become a core offering of what we give, as far as to the veterans and the military spouses. And a lot of that was derived off of the veterans wanting to advance, and the companies looking to hire are looking for additional training that these veterans, want to have under their belt. So it's right now all in on Salesforce, but we're looking at a few other things right now too.
Yeah, and I know too, after applying and then going through whatever cohort it is, I know when I went through my first cohort, it was the admin, and then after admin, I know you go through some personal and professional development training, and then they teach you, depending on the workshops that you might learn, like utilizing LinkedIn or some of the other platforms out there. But what other things should people know about Merivis? I know you have the alumni network, and there's definitely a lot of great assets that come with being a Merivis. Is there anything else people should know about?
Yeah, I think it encompasses a few things. One is you slowly get connected to a community of people professionally in the environment you're going after work-wise. So part of what we offer in some of our classes and just through kind of being a part of Merivis is we expose you to groups that are in your community that are learning and being in the Salesforce ecosystem. So like Salesforce Saturday, there's a big group in many cities, the different user groups, Salesforce user groups. But then we also offer, we have our own community within Merivis where we have job boards and stuff like that, where we post jobs. We have our Slack channel where you can kind of brag on, hey, I got this job, or I just got certified. And so there's this community unintentionally that we built electronically because of COVID that is starting to be organically grown now. But you're right, Taylor. I mean, a lot of the core parts are, some of the things that I think I know I take for granted, which is setting up a really professional LinkedIn, getting your resume reviewed, some mock interviews. You'd rather go into a mock interview with a friendly person who will give you respectful feedback. And then next time you go into a real interview, you've kind of got some of those kinks worked out. But the thing I'd say, and this is something I echoed a little earlier, and I'd say it again, is you will get out of it what you put into it. I've seen, and this is not to harp on anybody, but I've seen people go through, check the box, and then move on, and we don't hear from them again. And that's okay. That's not a problem. But the people who have leaned in, done the things that, basically run the playbook that we've given them. Because, a lot of our board, myself, our founders, we're very connected and we know how a lot of this stuff works. So we're just sharing our playbook, and obviously it depends on the students to run the play. The ones who run the play, the ones who stick to the playbook, are the ones by and large that become pretty successful in landing that first professional job in the Salesforce job market.
Yeah, it definitely sounds like what you put into is what you're going to get out of it. And so how can people support Merivis?
Yeah, so there's two critical ways. We can always use volunteers, whether if you don't know Salesforce, but you know resumes and you really want to help, or you want to be a Salesforce coach. Those are, from a volunteer perspective, where we're always looking for people. But by and large, being a 501c3 nonprofit, we are dependent on individual contributors and corporate sponsorships. And we wouldn't be here if it wasn't for that. So if you know of a company or your company that is interested in sponsoring a class, or someone who is interested in, providing some donation, if you will, that's always going to help, more veterans. It takes, from a costing perspective, anywhere from $1,200 to $2,000 to get each veteran through the program. And it is something that is worth the investment, because the companies that do hire these, and I guess that's my third way to, how you can help is if you're a company and you're looking to hire, consider a veteran. Even though from an Salesforce experience, they're going to be a little bit lower than I think what a lot of people look for. If you give them that opportunity, you give them that chance, you're probably going to have one of the more loyal and dedicated and productive employees within your workforce. These individuals bring teamwork, they bring camaraderie, they bring discipline, all those things I mentioned earlier on my journey. You'll have those extra assets if you hire a veteran. So any companies looking to hire, please consider whether it's a Merivet, whether it's a Salesforce military individual. You really can't go wrong.
Well, Hector, I want to thank you again for taking the time to do this today. And how can people follow you or get in touch with you?
Yeah, so you can always follow Merivis on at Merivets. I believe that's it on Twitter. You can follow me at Hector Perez Jr. We're also on LinkedIn, so there's a lot of shout outs to graduates who have gotten employed or certified. They'll shout out on Merivis. You could just do a quick search for Merivis, Merivis. Those are the two best, I would say. We're on Facebook as well, but those other two are probably more important. Or you can go to merivis.org. And as a last thing, I'd say, Taylor, Merivis actually is a word that means merit force in Latin. So some people ask, what is this word? What does it mean? And so we consciously chose a word that was pretty unique, but encapsulates what we're doing, merit and force. So you can't miss it. So if you Google it, we're probably the only thing that's going to come up, which is also good.
And just so you all know, you can definitely check out and get a Merivis shirt. I actually have one myself, so come in handy for test day.
Exactly.
All right, Hector. Well, thank you again, and until next time.
Yeah, thank you, Taylor. Appreciate it.
Thank you.